as we think about the research question, as we develop the research question, I mean, it goes, so many of the research questions that are developed, in terms of responding to community priorities, when we were sitting down, with the communities in North Carolina, the first thing that we want a cancer study. We have fears and genuine concerns about the cancer rates in this community. One of the things we had to do is sit down and say how hard it is to do a cancer epi study. How many ways that the industry or the entities who they're concerned about doing the pollution can turn that back around on them and say, okay, it's because of your lifestyle choices, the diet, the smoking risk factors and behaviors. So the thing we thought about is ways to leverage other issues that we had expertise, we could measure them, we could quantify a disproportionate impact around things like failing septic systems, water quality, air quality, existing record searches, and then that formed the stand-in for that community to speak in front of their local, their state, and the federal agencies to get attention about how money was being spent in their community versus the rich community down the road. So I'll slow down.
Hey, I just want to add something. One thing that we've done in Baltimore with our Urban Health Institute is that they have hired residents to be the data collectors and train them. That if you want to gain access, you need to go through people sometimes who know the people and know where the people are.
It's related, and it's specific to the funding issue, and that is that related to the Pat just said, the Affordable Care Act has created a situation for us, all of us, where the insurers, the people who profit from us being sick, now have to give so much money back to the communities for preventive efforts. And so the community health worker model is a model now that they are funding. So first in our communities, First Care, Kaiser Permanente, Aetna, all of those types of insurers have what are called community benefits offices. And usually they're more interested in the community being funded. And one way is that for the community, they can get promotors, navigators, community health workers funded. These are jobs and so forth to do various roles, including data collector. And so I would encourage you to look, at the insurers as one source of funding.
Great. Go ahead.
Well, I do most of this as a one person as a grassroots activist, usually trying to stop bad projects that are running down the rails pretty quick. We have this political industrial complex really, we've already got Baltimore, Southeast Baltimore is a really good example. You know what it's like. There's become this massive industrial waste energy in it. We've already got a huge profit curve, and yet some of the folks in the community, essentially community, like organizers, because they're going to get scholarships and that. They were even showed up in yellow t-shirts and then 10 minutes here and here, and nobody will have to speak on this, the Public Service Commission, and we want this, it's good, it's green jobs. Okay, so I'm wondering whether you see a model that it can be more of a quick strike model. Again, we intervene and we change the community conversation around the approach project like this. We get some good research done. Because I've read the environmental impact statement or the equivalent they put out there. There's nothing about baseline contamination. There's nothing about food chain. There's nothing about any of the most important risk factors in the city with a facility like this that MPs and the Public Service Commission are ready to improve it. We've talked to community residents. A lot of them don't want this. They feel like they're never listened to. So why should they say anything? And yet they're angry as hell at this point that they didn't even know about the hearing yesterday. And they didn't know about the August 30th hearing on the air permit until they read about the Baltimore Sunday morning. So you know the model we know we can reopen the conversation and engage them in sort of what they want and have them advocate for what they want instead of their another community.
I mean, one thing that we talked about doing, but the community has to be open to it. And the problem with that, I think, there's a difference between a representative model and a stakeholder model. That following the representative model, you may have your own representatives. And in the stakeholder model, people actually impact are the ones that speak for themselves. But we submit, the whole administrative complaint, when we work with our community partner, Where submitted a administrative complaint way before they even got with us. And they basically blocked the highway. They submitted it based on Title VI executive order. It's basically, it's a way to get injunctive relief to stall a plan. And so they've been able to block this highway for how many years now?
And an industrial court.
And industrial corridor apart from Northwest. Maybe how many years? 15, 16 years now? 16 years. So that way they did their own research, that they don't, we didn't have sewer and water access, we don't have paved roads, we have people who've been exposed to pollutants. They submitted information, and because it went to DOJ and EPA, and all the people who signed off on it, the Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of Agriculture, signed off on it, they were all complainants. They're all defendants on this. So until they can fix the issue, they've been able to block the highway. So that actually is a quick, that's a quick strike that this community group did on their own, without being an academic partner, and then we came in and helped out on the back end. But that's.
So you're saying that there were people who were part of the community that would be affected, that were officials that would be moving on this?
No, not in this particular issue. This issue in Baltimore is more, you had community leaders who bought in, who pro-industry, who have not really represented the community well. In our issue in North Carolina, you had community leaders who basically did their own research, collected data to submit this complaint to block the highway. And basically they leveraged the secondary issue, the lack of basic amenities, school and water infrastructure, to stop the primary issue, which was the highway. Okay.
But see, if you're a resident of that community and you don't agree with the majority, or maybe it's not a majority, but the loudest, most influential people in that case, then you can still file a complaint. You can file if the right circumstances exist where there's a misuse of federal money in a disproportionate way under a Title VI group. You can think very creatively about that in terms of if they are using money in other areas, say in a more affluent community, and they're improving streams, they're improving the waterfront, they're improving the water and sewer infrastructure, or whatever, using federal funds. And it always, for decades, it's been going into those more affluent communities or those demographically different communities, but it's never, after decades of being requested in the communities where this issue is going on. That can be, we've really thought creatively about how to apply Title VI in that way to show disproportionate.
And the Fair Housing Act is another legislative part as well. Fair Housing Act is another way to get at these issues too, sort of the quick strike way as well. I'm sorry, in the back, I'm right in the, what's that, lavender? I can't see. It's nice.
My name is Anna, and I work at Hopkins, and I have the privilege of working with Barb and Pat. They're my community partners for the community. And so part of the problem that with the community that we're working with, the Charter Station community, is 90% of the jobs that the community has come from the polluters. So they're stuck in between, a hard place. I don't know how that goes, but it's really bad, right? And because the community doesn't want to lose their jobs, and they recognize that this is a really bad problem. They have, it's 85 TRI polluters surrounding in a 5-mile radius. So it's a really, really, really horrible situation. But they've been trying for years to get something done without losing their jobs. So it's really hard. And one of the ways that we've come up with, or the community has helped us deal with it, is to get at least a baseline survey. So what's going on? So that they can go to the port administration and say, you say that you're not polluting, but these are the numbers, right? So initially we went in talking about, thinking about measuring air pollution, because that's what I do. But the community really wants to have their soil tested and their water tested. So that's forced me to look for partners and, okay, who can help me do this? And so it's really enriching, but the goal is to make something, to have an impact in the community. That would be the goal. And it's very frustrating because after 3 years, it's not there, but hopefully we're getting.
I mean, one thing that I work with a poor community in Charleston, so what they've been able to do is they're the only community in the state of South Carolina to get their master plan into the city plan. So by getting the master plan in the city plan, they have more community-based planning. And it still is not preventing the industry from expanding the port. That's one of the reasons why we're doing a baseline assessment too. But at least they have more control over what's going to happen. And so they got a mitigation plan agreement, which got some funding, which gets to this whole funding issue. So give the industry they need funding, like, okay, you're walking on the eggshells after you get the money. Even though the money is a good amount, but compared to the billions of dollars the industry makes, it's a drop in the bucket. So it really kind of, I don't know, they're kind of stuck with the mitigation plan. But the master plan is one approach that I think will be beneficial. And then also, we are doing soil and water assessment too. PCBs, PAHs, metals, to go into helping with some of the policy stuff around the zoning. So that's the way we've been trying to intervene through the planning, through the zoning in that particular community. In the back. Sir.
Hi, yes, my name is Rachel Perry. I work with 4-H in the Center for Youth Development at the University of the District of Columbia. Well, no. My title is project coordinator with a program called Environmentors. Environmentors, so it's a plug and then a question. Huh?
I said you email me.
Yes. So Environmentors is a program that pairs working professionals in the environmental field with high school students. And they work together on a project of the students choosing throughout the course of the academic school year, an environmental science project, and they have a chance at the end to compete for scholarships. But the plug is we're looking for people to sit on their environmental issues panel to help educate our students about what issues are going on in their community. We're looking for resources and ideas, and of course we're always looking for mentors. So that's the plug. You can go to environmentors.org and then look for the DC chapter. So the question is, what about working with high school age students and with high schools to do some of this sort of man hours, boots on the ground kind of research to get some of these questions answered?
We have a project here at the University of Maryland and the Prince George's Public Schools where we have to follow them from 10th grade through 12th grade though. So we've had federal science mentors in the first year. In the second year they worked with these kind of innovative educational materials where they developed their own ways of learning about the public health issues that they were studying. And then this third year, they're going back to something like you're doing, where they have mentors. I don't know if you're familiar with Patriots Technology Training Center. Patriots has been around 20 years or so, and they rely on the people that Yolanda doesn't know at the EPA, the Office of Naval Research. I mean, the good thing about where health is these days, everybody sees it as their issue, and environmental health, environmental justice in particular. So what they do is they have a cadre of people who, I mean, they have 500 students in their membership. So you might want to talk with them. Thurman Jones is the president of it. But we partnered with them, and they go to the schools to help us identify the students. Ours is a research project, but we've been able to maintain these students they're in their third year now, and we have maybe, I don't know, 10 have dropped out, maybe 120 something. So, but it helped having a community partner because I don't know, maybe you want to talk about this, the federal employees have either some commitment or requirement or whatever was in their performance thing where they had to give hours as either an agency or a unit within an agency. So like at NIH, we use some person whose job it is to help do the linking. And you call that one person who's in the informed health services, and they find the people for you. Okay.
Carrie, EPA. A couple of things. The CARE program, Community Action for a Renewed Environment. Website, www.epa.gov/care, C-A-R-E, is a grant program, and it's not funded. Congress cut it, it was funded, and they zeroed us out. You can't believe they zeroed the one program that allows communities to be in charge of what goes on in their community. We give them funding, 2-year funding. The first is up to $100,000, where you actually bring people to the table, everybody, Miss Mary, Mr. Bob, the man at the cleaners. We insist that you have a business. You come to the table, and then you prioritize what's important to you. So what may be important to me may be trash pickup, yours may be noise, yours may be drugs in the area, another may be no PTA at your elementary school. So you list these concerns, and you go through the process. You have 2 years. to go through the process, to talk about what's important to me, what rises us to the top. And that brings everybody to the table. Business, you have to have a business because that gives you the sustainability piece. And then after you do that for 2 years, then you can go the second part and you can get up to $300,000 where you can actually address that issue. If your issue is the city's not picking up the trash, then you would work on that. They cut us, they zeroed us out, Congress did.
Send your letters.
They're there, and Administrator Jackson, and we're all for it. You can go on their website. You'll see with these projects. We have over 60 projects where youth did all the outreach. Where in Michigan, dentists took out the mercury out of their amalgam separators. It's just wonderful projects, and we want people to be able to copy these examples and use it in their communities. One other thing the agency is doing is working with industry. I was just on a call just the other day where we are working with the waste management, the BASF, the AT&T, the Walmart, asking them, okay, good guys, we love you. You know, you can't be too harsh on them because they'll run. So we have to stroke them when they get there. We want to say, you do, because they're scared. And on this call, what I heard was these industries were so much fear was in their voice, where we help these communities and we think we're doing all they want us to do, but then 2 years they come back. And so that's what they're afraid of. But what we're asking them to do is put together a toolbox of best practices. It could be something as simple as invite the community in to see how you run your business. We're talking huge business. We're talking about the Georgia Pacifics in Savannah, Georgia. Invite the community in. A health center. Fund a health center. Follow your community people. Flaring. You know, they flare. So why are they flaring? They do that. They do a number of things. We're trying to get the industry to put this on paper so that we can share with other industries. So we're trying to, you know.
What's that website?
But that's something we're doing within the Office of Solid Waste and Emergency Response. CARE is www.epa.gov/care, C-A-R-E. On there you also see a roadmap, and this will give you all the steps to follow to get everybody in your community at the table. It is so simple to follow. And Yolanda wanted me to talk about Planning J 2014, but that's something we'll do the next time. Yes.
Let me, okay, wait, hold on a second. We got 5 minutes, we have to do speed dating. So, quick question, quick response, I'm gonna go, Lucy.
Yes, I'm just wondering if any of you could speak very briefly to sort of what I imagine is the next step of engaging decision makers in the type of research that you've conducted. I mean, at what point is it most effective to bring the findings and to bring what sounds like really great efforts to the attention of decision makers? How does that tend to work out?
I'll just say from the start, because first you have to define which decision makers, and then you get somebody who you think can get you to them at the end, if that's when you want to do it in the middle or whatever. So I think they're a stakeholder.
Do they tend to pay attention from the start?
We have elected officials in our partnerships. The mayor of one city, the mayors of the other 4 cities will have a partnership. And what are called the advisory neighborhood commissioners in the smaller areas. They all are, every partnership I'm involved with has an elected type person involved. That's the decision maker.
And if the decision maker is a policy or a regulator at the agency, the easiest way to get involved is when a policy is being created. Follow the docket. Follow the policy, respond when the federal register notice comes out. Industry does it. They absolutely do, and we have to have a responsibility. The comments.
I think it was another question. Glasses.
Oh, okay, me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Mahalo. I work with EPA as well. I was responding to your question about how to get community engagement and CBPR as part of a research process that I've done is to put pressure on the federal government funders, and it's public money after all. Ask them to fund a ton of research. And when the money is available, you need to apply. So for example, at the EPA, we fund extramural research at the NSER, which is the National Center for Environmental Research. We give our grant, so we do NSER to undergraduates, to graduate students, faculty. So when that money comes up and you log on to enter the website, look for possibilities of partnering with communities or doing collaborative research with communities or with the health department, with the hospital, with the university, and get your questions out there. If you don't see the kind of research that you want, talk to EPA. Talk to EPA and ask them to fund the kind of research you want.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right, very quickly. A number of you talked about sort of tailoring information for different audiences and involving the audiences in different materials as sort of co-creators in brochures or games. What role do you see technology as being a part of that process in developing, online tools or even using text messaging? How can that be part of that process?
There's one thing that we did in Baltimore. We worked with the Maryland Institute College of Art. So they were at first, showing us how to do posters, artwork. They taught, one of their projects was around doing it's called Pretty. The project was called Pretty. So it was the cells of different diseases. They did the cells in a picture. So you couldn't tell that it was, the cells. But it was this picture that looked pretty. And that's what they called it. So those were, and it helped you to have this conversation with the audience.
In the Ward A Drug Free Coalition, the youth developed their own hip hop song message, and they created their own Facebook. It's been around a while, so they had MySpace before then, but now it's Facebook. They're now tweeting, so the youth have created their own social media and networking opportunities, and they've also drawn their own bus ads and got them posted on the metro, subways, and buses. And they finally have like a theater performance that they take around, but they also film it and put it on YouTube, so they have all their stuff on YouTube.
I would also recommend crowdsourcing. The Louisiana Bucket Brigade is doing some really amazing things in the aftermath of the Deepwater Horizon spill. They were able to kind of create a way for anybody with a cell phone to be able to stay out on the beach, plug in and take a picture, and put that picture, and it gets populated in real time with a map. It's like a real-time accountability for missions. If you work well in an urban environment, maybe better than in a rural area. So in other words, technology is still challenging in terms of maybe but I think it hurt.
So my name is Rich Gallo. I was working at EPA, and I just right along these lines, and thank you all for the work that you're doing, and your excellent presentations, and thanks to Kobe and your colleagues for organizing this terrific symposium. There's another tool that's being developed at EPA called See First. It's community-focused exposure and risk science management tool. And it's actually in the pilot phase right now. It's going to be released to the public in FY13, so before October of 2013. And basically, this is the kind of tool that we act use. It's basically you talk about GIS and mapping, and seeing is believing. And so, this is one of the tools we have to use to show, okay, you've got bus depots here. You can't build another one here because we got 2 more right here. And it's like, so people see where stuff is, we can't hide that. And all this data is available publicly. Government provides an enormous amount of GIS data, mapping data. All you've got to do is have the tools to be able to use it. So the Sustainable Healthy Communities program within the Office of Research and Development is developing some ways to interact with communities more than in the past. So I think trying to really do that, and the See First tool is one of them. So watch for that. You can do a web search for CFERST. And watch it, contact Valerie Zargarian or Brad Schultz or Andrew Geller who are working on that, and make sure that, it does get to the public release and use it.
Thank you. Sorry, that's all my questions for the day. Let's thank our panelists, please. Thank everyone for their attention and really getting into this discussion. Please, if you have time, return to the Hoff Auditorium downstairs. We're going to do the closeout session. And then we're going to talk about next steps, actions, etc. We're going to talk about an hour. We'll get some feedback from folks. Maybe even call folks in the audience to get their opinion, and then call for the session to participate in. And also fill out your evaluation there as well. So thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you in the floor process.
Professional